Have you ever gazed up at the stars and felt, deep down, that we aren't alone? What if I told you the answer to that question was written over 5,000 years ago on simple tablets of wet clay? Welcome to the channel. Today we're diving into one of humanity's most captivating mysteries, the ancient Sumerians and their enigmatic gods. I promise that what you're about to hear will change the way you look at our origins forever. While most believe humanity built the first civilization entirely on its own, ancient texts tell a very different story. They suggest that our creators might one day return. So get comfortable, close your eyes, and let go of the day. Our journey begins now. As you drift into a state of calm, ask yourself and share your thoughts in the comments later. Is humanity a mere accident of evolution, or are we part of someone's grand design? To truly grasp the scale of this mystery, we must travel back to the very dawn of time. Picture the lands between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, in what is now modern-day Iraq. It was here, nearly 6,000 years ago, that an incredibly advanced civilization appeared almost out of thin air. The Sumerians. They gave the world the wheel, mathematics, astronomy, and complex systems of law. But most importantly, they gave us the written word. They etched their vast knowledge into clay tablets using cuneiform, tiny wedge-shaped symbols pressed into the earth with a simple reed. For millennia, these tablets lay buried beneath layers of desert sand. But when archaeologists finally unearthed and translated them, the scientific world was stunned. These weren't just records of trade or daily life. They contained detailed descriptions of the cosmos, the structure of our solar system, and powerful beings the Sumerians called the Anunnaki, those who came from heaven to earth. Tonight, we explore their stories, their secrets, and their warnings. Let's start at the very beginning. How did humanity first learn about these texts? Picture the mid-19th century, the blistering sands of the desert. British archaeologists are excavating the ruins of the ancient city of Nineveh. The heat is suffocating, and the dust grits between their teeth. Suddenly, deep beneath the earth, they find something. Not gold and not jewelry, but something far more precious. It was an entire library belonging to King Ashurbanipal. Over 30,000 clay tablets had lain there, undisturbed, for centuries. At the time, no one realized what secrets were hidden within those fragments of baked clay. It took scholars decades of painstaking work to finally crack the code. And when those texts finally spoke, the world was shaken to its core. These messages from the past completely transformed our understanding of the ancient world. Most incredibly, the authors of these texts didn't take credit for their vast knowledge. Instead, they claimed they received all their technology from the gods, from the Anunnaki themselves. Who exactly were the Anunnaki? Their name has a translation that is as poetic as it is direct: those who came from the heavens to the earth. Traditional history views them simply as mythological characters, fictions created by ancient people to explain thunder, lightning, and the changing seasons. But for a moment, let's set skepticism aside. Ancient texts don't describe them as formless spirits. They are depicted as physical beings, as rulers and engineers. Now we should clear up a common misconception. Many believe that all scholars agree the Anunnaki were extraterrestrials. That isn't the case. This theory was primarily popularized by Zecharia Sitchin in the 20th century, and mainstream science often clashes with his views. Yet, even the most rigid professors admit one thing. The Sumerian descriptions of these gods are hauntingly detailed and technically complex. They don't sound like fairy tales. They sound like a chronicle of real events, recorded by those who saw them firsthand. But where, according to these ancient texts, did the Anunnaki actually come from? Sumerian cosmology offers a fascinating answer, pointing to a mysterious 12th planet known as Nibiru. To visualize this, imagine our solar system as a vast clock. Most planets move in steady, circular orbits around the sun. Now imagine a massive cosmic pendulum swinging through that clock. That is Nibiru. Its orbit follows a giant, elongated ellipse. According to some researchers, Nibiru only enters our inner solar system once every 3,600 years. For the rest of its journey, it drifts through the cold, dark reaches of deep space. Ancient records describe it as a radiant red planet, the dwelling place of the gods. This immense orbital cycle explains why the Anunnaki are not always present on Earth. They are ever bound to the celestial rhythm of their home world. This raises a logical question. Why would beings from another world even care about Earth? The Sumerian tablets provide a surprisingly practical answer. They weren't looking for friendship or spiritual connection. They were after resources, specifically gold. According to the texts, the atmosphere of their home planet, Nibiru, was beginning to fail. To save their world, they needed to suspend fine particles of gold in the sky to create a reflective shield against cosmic radiation. It sounds like pure science fiction, doesn't it? But look at our own modern technology. Today, aerospace agencies use gold foil to protect satellites and spacesuits from the harsh radiation of space. How could the ancient Sumerians have known about these specific physical properties? The Anunnaki arrived on Earth as miners. They organized massive expeditions, extracting gold from the reaches of southern Africa to the heart of Mesopotamia. Mining gold was backbreaking work. According to ancient Sumerian texts, there was a class of lesser gods known as the Igigi. They were the ones tasked with toiling in the mines of Earth. Picture the scene. Mighty beings, accustomed to the vastness of the heavens, forced deep underground. For hundreds of years, they dug through the earth, until finally, the inevitable happened. The Igigi revolted. It was history's first strike, and it was on a cosmic scale. They burned their tools and surrounded the palace of Enlil, the supreme ruler of the Anunnaki on Earth. The situation reached a breaking point. Gold was vital for the survival of their home planet, Nibiru, but no one was willing to work anymore. That's when Enlil's brother, a brilliant scientist named Enki, proposed a radical solution. He decided to create a primitive worker to take on the burden of this grueling labor. This is where the Sumerian narrative takes a fascinating turn, aligning perfectly with modern genetic theory. Enki didn't just conjure humanity out of thin air using magic. The ancient texts describe a much more sophisticated process. They recount how the gods took the essence of a creature already living on Earth and fused it with their own divine blood. In today's language, we'd call this genetic engineering. They essentially took the DNA of an existing hominid and spliced it with the genetic code of the Anunnaki. According to the clay tablets, this is how the first human, Adamu, came to be. It's a familiar name, isn't it? This story closely mirrors the biblical account of Adam being formed from the dust of the earth. Yet these Sumerian records were written long before the Bible was ever conceived. But there was a catch. Humanity was created with one single specific purpose: to be a submissive servant, destined to mine gold for the gods. This new labor force proved to be a resounding success. Humans multiplied rapidly and worked tirelessly. But before long, a new problem emerged. According to Sumerian records, the sheer clamor of humanity became unbearable for the supreme ruler, Enlil. The people were too loud, too restless, and most concerning of all, they were evolving far faster than the gods had ever intended. Enlil, who had been skeptical of the human project from the very beginning, decided to take drastic action. He sought to wipe humanity from the face of the earth. At that time, the planet Nibiru was once again approaching, and its massive gravitational pull was set to trigger a global cataclysm. Enlil commanded the other gods to keep this a secret, ensuring that mankind would perish in the literal wake of the coming disaster. This is the event we now know as the Great Flood, a catastrophe designed to wash away every trace of our existence. But humanity had a protector, Enki, the very god who had created us. Feeling a deep responsibility for his creation, he knew he couldn't openly defy Enlil's command. Instead, he turned to cunning. In secret, he reached out to a righteous man, known in Sumerian texts as Ziusudra, or Utnapishtim. Enki warned him of the approaching wall of water and provided precise instructions for building a massive vessel. This was no simple fable about a wooden boat. The ancient scripts contained specific geometric calculations and blueprints for a pitch-sealed, submersible craft. Ziusudra was told to take his family and the seeds of all living things. The parallels here are striking. This is the story of Noah's Ark, recorded thousands of years before the Old Testament was ever written. Enki made certain that the spark of human life would not be extinguished beneath the waves. And so, the Great Flood swept across the earth. The accounts etched into the ancient clay tablets are truly harrowing, speaking of ink-black skies, howling winds, and waves that surged toward the heavens. Even the Anunnaki themselves trembled before the storm's fury. They retreated to their celestial crafts, watching from orbit in terror and weeping for the beauty of the world they had lost. When the waters finally receded, the old world had vanished without a trace. Yet Utnapishtim's vessel had endured. When Enlil discovered that humanity had survived, his rage was absolute. But Enki managed to persuade his brother that mankind had earned its right to exist. From that moment on, the gods' perspective shifted. They no longer saw us as mere silent servants. Instead, the Anunnaki chose to bestow their wisdom upon the survivors. It was then, as the ancient texts proclaim, that kingship once again descended from the heavens, and the gods began to teach mankind. After the Great Flood, a new era dawned. The Anunnaki brought humanity the foundations of agriculture and taught us how to build cities and complex irrigation systems. They provided the laws and the very structure of our society. What's fascinating is that Sumerian kings never saw themselves as absolute rulers. They were merely stewards, governing on behalf of the gods. The Anunnaki themselves lived in secluded compounds at the heart of the cities, structures we now call temples or ziggurats. These areas were strictly off-limits to ordinary people. Only the priests could enter, bringing food and clothing to the inhabitants within. Picture the scene: a massive stepped pyramid towering over the city. At the very top, within a sacred sanctuary, dwells the deity. From there, it issues commands, manipulates the weather with mysterious devices, and decides the fate of entire nations. To the Sumerians, this wasn't religion as we understand it today. This was simply their everyday reality. But time marched on, and eventually, something strange occurred. Ancient texts speak of a period of immense sorrow when the Anunnaki began abandoning their cities. The records mention violent storms, but not natural ones. Based on the descriptions, they sound more like radioactive fallout. They tell of an evil wind that brought nothing but death. Scholars are still debating this today. Was it a conflict between the gods themselves, fought with weapons of mass destruction, or was it a natural disaster beyond our understanding? Regardless of the cause, the gods boarded their celestial craft and vanished into the skies. They left humanity behind. This was a devastating blow to the entire civilization. Cities were deserted, and chaos took hold. The people felt like abandoned children. It was during this desperate time that the priests began etching all their knowledge onto clay tablets. They were determined to preserve the memory of their creators and their sacred teachings. They were writing for the generations yet to come. It is within these final farewell texts that the most vital warning is hidden. The Sumerians didn't view time the way we do. To us, time is a straight line, stretching from the past into the future. But for the ancient people of Mesopotamia, time was a cycle. They believed that everything that has happened before is destined to happen again. They lived by the laws of great cosmic cycles, and their warning is unmistakable. The departure of the gods was not forever. Nibiru's orbit is immense, but it is unchanging. When the great cycle finally closes, the planet will once again appear in our skies, and with it, the return of those who created us. The priests wrote that before their arrival, omens would begin to appear across the earth. Nature will lose its balance. There will be earthquakes, anomalies in the heavens, and great turmoil among the people. It sounds hauntingly similar to the world we see today, doesn't it? But what does this return truly mean for humanity? Scholars of ancient texts remain divided. Some argue the Sumerians were describing a literal event, the physical return of an extraterrestrial fleet. If that is the case, we may soon have to answer to our creators. Will they approve of what we've done to their planet? Have we squandered its riches and ravaged the natural world? Other experts suggest we look past the myth of little green men. They believe the warning is metaphorical, that the return of the Anunnaki represents the cyclical nature of global catastrophes. It is a reminder that the cosmos is a living force, and that Earth is inextricably tied to its rhythms. A passing celestial body could trigger a shift in magnetic poles or drive sudden climate change. Regardless of the interpretation, these ancient texts are a call to vigilance, a reminder of our humble place within the vastness of the universe. Let's look at this through the lens of modern science. Could that mysterious planet have actually existed? For a long time, astronomers laughed at the idea, but recently the narrative has shifted. Scientists have discovered strange anomalies at the very fringes of our solar system. Icy objects beyond Pluto are moving as if they're being tugged by the gravity of a massive, unseen force. Today, astronomers are seriously hunting for what they call Planet 9. It's predicted to be a giant with a highly elongated orbit, exactly what the Sumerians described 5,000 years ago. A coincidence? Perhaps. No, you have to admit it's chilling when cutting-edge computer models confirm what was etched into clay by lamplight in the distant past. Sumerian chronicles offer another vital warning, one centered on human pride. When the gods departed, they entrusted us with dominion over the world, but they also left behind the laws of harmony. The ancient texts frequently speak of the me, divine blueprints or cosmic decrees that govern everything from the movement of the stars to the behavior of mankind. The Sumerians believed that if these laws were forsaken, if society became consumed by greed and injustice, the gods would return to restore order, and that order would be imposed with an iron fist. Ultimately, this warning isn't just about looking to the heavens, it is about looking within. It serves as a reminder that neither technology nor power makes us gods. We remain vulnerable, standing at the mercy of the cosmos and our own failings. Picture this, an ancient temple in Babylon or Ur. Night has fallen. An old priest sits by the flickering light of a dim fire. He reaches for a fresh, soft clay tablet and a sharp stylus. He knows his city is fading. He gazes at the stars, searching for that red glow, the herald of the return. With painstaking care, he etches every wedge, every word. He writes of the great flood, of Enki's wisdom and Enlil's wrath. He knows he won't live to see the cycle reach its end. But he wants his descendants, people like you and me, to know the truth. He seals the tablet in a clay jar and hides it deep within the archives. This gesture is an act of desperate hope, a hope that humanity will never forget its roots, that our collective memory won't be lost in the rush of the centuries. And here we are, thousands of years later, finally reading his message. But why does this story resonate so deeply with us today? Why are millions of people still captivated by the Anunnaki and the mysteries of ancient civilizations? Perhaps the answer lies in our own psychology. It is incredibly difficult for us to accept that we might be truly alone in this vast, cold universe. We find ourselves searching for elder brothers, beings more advanced than ourselves, who might step in to solve our problems, or finally explain the meaning of our existence. Sumerian myths offer us a sense of belonging to something grand. They tell us, you are not an accident, you were created, you have a purpose, even if that purpose was nothing more than manual labor. It connects us to the cosmos by an invisible thread. It is a thought that is both unsettling and deeply reassuring. It relieves us, if only for a moment, of our existential loneliness. Now let's look ahead. If the Sumerians were right, and the great cycle is indeed real, what is our next move? Will we be able to meet our creators as equals? In the millennia since they left, we have mastered genetic engineering. We launch our own vessels into the stars and attempt to reshape the atmospheres of distant worlds. In many ways, we have become just like the gods described on those ancient clay tablets. Perhaps the ultimate test of their return won't be about survival at all. It will be about proving that we are no longer a slave race, but a sentient, independent civilization ready to take responsibility for our own home. Viewed this way, the warnings of the ancients aren't a threat. They are a catalyst for our evolution. Listening to these ancient legends, it's easy to get lost in the vastness of time. Millennia pass in the blink of an eye. Empires rise and fall, swallowed by the shifting sands. Gods descend from the heavens, only to return to the stars once more. And yet, the world keeps turning. Just outside your window lies the same starry sky that an ancient Sumerian stargazer once looked upon. The very same stars guarding their eternal mysteries. And somewhere out there, perhaps, a giant red planet continues its long, silent journey. It is in no rush. The hands of the cosmic clock move slowly. We still have time. Time to reflect on who we are. Time to learn how to live in peace with one another and with the planet we call home. Let this story be your cosmic lullaby. Imagine the noise of the world drifting away, leaving behind only the quiet breath of eternity. Above you, the stars glide slowly across the sky, watching over your rest. The ancient secrets of the past are no longer mysteries. They have become a part of your dreams. You are a piece of this vast, wondrous universe. There is no need for fear, no ancient gods, no cosmic storms. Simply feel the deep pulse of time. From the very first breath of humanity to your own, a single, unbroken thread of life connects us all. Relax. Let your mind dissolve into these old myths. Sleep peacefully, knowing the universe is holding you safe. It's a fascinating twist of history, isn't it? The Sumerian warning wasn't just some ancient tale meant to scare us about the end of the world. It was a profound philosophical message. They were trying to tell us that civilizations move in cycles, reminding us that we aren't gods, no matter how many grand cities we build or how much we try to bend nature to our will. If we lose our harmony with the world, if we let greed and cruelty take over, the system will eventually reset itself, just as it did during the Great Flood. Whether that comes in the form of visitors from the stars or a natural catastrophe, the core message remains the same. This knowledge was left behind so that we wouldn't repeat the mistakes of the past. Thank you for spending this time with us and diving into the mysteries of Mesopotamia. I hope this story has left you with peaceful thoughts and a sense of calm. If you enjoy exploring these historical enigmas, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and be sure to check out our other stories designed for sleep. And before you drift off, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. How much of these ancient myths do you believe is the absolute truth? Good night, and until next time.